Hi everyone, welcome to Yajilin 12 from Yajilin Yacht. This one was titled Subdivision, and logically it's a very tricky puzzle, very subtle. So I'm going to start with the freebie 0, and then also the corners and essentially just dead end avoidance in the middle section. Just the middle as the bottom, and well, I guess we'll also do these two corners, as those are also fairly useful. So the intended starting point was actually something to do with, for instance, this block, and this block. I'm going to leave that here for a moment so you can think about it, or you can pause. And all right, so here's how those blocks are useful. There's exactly one shaded cell in this block, or I should say there's at most one shaded cell in this block, at most two in this block, and at most two in this block. Proving that there's at most one in the top block is not very difficult, but in any case, as soon as you get two in each of these bottom blocks, you can get a shaded cell here, which will force this, a shaded cell here, and you can't quite determine where in the top block it will be used. So let's eliminate all of the edge segments there. And now do the other important subdivision I had in mind, which involves this 2x3 block, this 2x2 block, and this 2x3 block. So again, we can say there's at most 2 in the 2x3, and in fact, since we know there's at most 1 here, we know there's 1 here, and here. We know there's at most 1 here, and at most 2 in this 2x3. However, this step, it turned out, could actually be circumvented a little bit, just by analyzing the 3 right clue. There's at most 1 shaded cell on this line from these clues, at most 1 shaded cell on this line from these walls, and at most 1 shaded cell here. Well, that just means that right here, this remaining cell must be used as a shaded cell. And we also must have one here, which this doesn't actually circumvent too much. You still need to do the subdivision on this 2 and 3 to really get going. But once you've done that, you get the second shaded cell from the 2 here, and you get this cell. So let me eliminate the edges again. And at this stage, this is where a lot of people actually got here and then got stuck. The really important part is, again, kind of an entrance counting step in the top right, where well, obviously you can't shade these two cells because those would create a dead end immediately. You can't shade here because it would create a fork, and you can't shade here because it would also create a fork or a dead end. But what if I told you you also can't shade any of these 4 cells? For the same reason that we did with the 2 all the way back in tilted square, if any of these were shaded, then there would be a line segment coming in, and in the top right corner, we would then have 3 loop ends. And we can't have 3 loop ends. It has to be an even number. Therefore, none of these can be shaded, which is enough to look at this 2 at the bottom and say, hey, one of those 2 is shaded, so these are unshaded. You can do a similar thing with this 2. Again, we did a step like this in, I think it was subdivision, or not subdivision, truly symmetric, where if we shade these 2 on the top, that creates a line segment coming in, and again, we have 3, so that's bad. Therefore, you can't shade both of the top 2, so you must shade the bottom one. I'm going to do a step I haven't shown yet, but this is a very simple loop-inspired step. If I were to not use this segment I just marked, that prematurely closes the loop. Therefore, the segment must come out. The shaded cell must be on the bottom. And we can also, from this earlier with this 2, shade here. This 1 now unshades the remainder of the bottom row. And we get to here. So now we get to do one more big entrance count. If we look at the bottom right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines coming in, and 1 option remaining here. Due to the fact that we have 4 lines coming in, if another line comes in, we have 5. No matter how they pair up, there's 1 left over. This edge is not crossed. And that is enough to resolve the rest of this subdivision and this double 2 subdivision. You also avoid crossing in here. And at this point, the rest of the puzzle is still actually not the easiest thing. Well, there must be 2 exits from the top right coming down, extending them. You can do a checkerboard parity argument here to say this cell must be shaded, or you can say these are the same lines, so simple loop logic gives you the following. Both of those work, give you the same result. This one's unshaded from the 2, one of these is shaded from the 1. If it's here, you create 3 entrances, therefore it's not here, it must actually be the cell on the left. A couple more relatively free follow-ups. And finally, if we shade here, it creates a loop, and this is the section where checkerboard parity really does come in handy. So again, let's go back to the Edge tool and outline our relevant region, which is this 11 cell area. There are 3 entrances on the black parity and 1 on the white parity, which if you then try to connect everything up, which let's just arbitrarily do so, then you'll see it works out, which means we have the correct amount of entrances on each color parity, and we have the correct amount of entrances on each color parity and the correct amount of parity of each color cell, because Yajilin can adjust that. This means that there must be a shaded cell on each parity. Another way you can get to this that is probably easier, and I probably should have led with that, is if you try to connect everything up, there's no cells left over, therefore there must be an even amount of additional shaded cells. In either case, you get this cell is shaded, and the rest of the loop just closes. So let's get rid of the edge, and that is the solution to subdivision. Again, I took a slightly more involved step to resolve the top left. You could have also just looked ahead at how it would work. But I hope that the understanding of multiple ways you can prove that, and generally multiple ways of thinking about this sort of paired clue theme, which I really wanted to showcase in one of these puzzles, will be helpful for you on future Yajilins. So until next time, where we'll take on Yajilin 13.